Welcome to the Uplifters podcast. I'm Aranza Savas, and every week I have the incredible privilege of interviewing inspiring midlife women who are doing big, brave things and are sharing what they've learned about what works and what doesn't so that we can all do big, brave things in midlife. Today's conversation is one I've literally been waiting months to have. I'm talking with Dr. Kimberly Derezil. She is a double board certified physician and certified wealth manager who's sounding the alarm on something that affects every single woman listening to this show, but that literally nobody is talking about. You will learn today that the average professional woman loses 20 to 25% of her annual income to menopause. Not from medical bills. I mean, those are going to add up too, and you're going to hear about that, but from the invisible career cost and devastating retirement impacts that most women do not see until it is too late. Dr. Derezil is in a unique position to address this, and she calls it the menopause tax. It's something she's experienced personally. It's something she's experienced with her patients. And to my knowledge, she is the only person who is combining medical expertise with financial planning specifically for women in menopause to address this. So today we're going to talk about the 3 hidden costs that make up the menopause tax, why doctors, financial advisors, and women themselves don't see this coming, how to calculate your own menopause tax and what to do about it. Yay. The small, well-intentioned decisions that can turn into 6-figure losses, and what companies can do to stop losing their most experienced female talent. So if you are in your 40s or your 50s, grab a pen. If you are not, send this to the women in midlife that you know and love, because this conversation could literally save you tens of thousands of dollars or more. Dr. Kimberly Derezil, welcome to the Uplifters podcast.
Thank you for having me, Arances.
It's so good to be here with you. I am such a huge fan of you personally and of your work. And I feel so honored that we are getting to host you for your first podcast conversation ever. I suspect this will very much not be the last. You've sort of blown my mind with what you've taught me and our work together. And I'm just so thrilled for our audience to get to hear about it too. We have to start with the obvious question. How on earth does a medical doctor become a wealth manager? Walk me through that journey, because it is so unusual for someone to double board certify in those 2 areas.
I think, yeah, for over a decade, I've been treating women going through this transition. And they've told me themselves time and time again, visit after visit, how menopause, this transition, what they were experiencing, how it made them feel, how it made them show up at work, and how it affected their decisions, and specifically their money decisions. At this age, usually around like the 40s and 50s, these are the peak earning years for midlife women. And so making really good, strong money choices is really personal to them. And so at the time, I didn't fully understand it. And as a physician, I could only do but so much and just offer them treatment. But it wasn't until it actually happened to me, I started going through the transition last year, that I was like, this is what they were talking about.
Mm-hmm.
I had to make a decision regarding a contract. Unfortunately, I had to turn it down. Brain fog was killing me. I couldn't think as well as I used to, and I just couldn't add something else to my plate. And so I turned that down. Long story short, it ended up costing me $121,000. That was the impact it made on my own retirement. And I said, whoa,
Wow.
I need to do something about this.
Wow.
Yep.
That's
So
a lot of money. So like when you talk about that number right there, you said that you connect it directly to the retirement. So what was the bottom line loss there?
yeah. So the contract in of itself for that 1 year cost me $31,000. Right. Then I sat down, I calculated the long term effects of that one decision on my retirement, and that ended up being $90,000. So when you add those two numbers together, you get 121,000. A
That's bonkers.
lot of
And you
money.
think about like, there's a chance people are doing that like every year, making big decisions and saying no to work because they don't feel like they have the capacity. And so you were seeing your patients really struggle. But then when it happened to you firsthand, is that when you were like, that's what all my patients were talking about? That's the part I couldn't see after they left the office?
The light bulb went on because we just can't afford to have those six-figure losses in our retirement. The cost of living is just going up, especially if you have multiple roles. Your midlife is considered the sandwich generation. You're caring for your aging parents, but also if you have little ones, you're raising them. So there's a lot on your plate and you need a lot of reserve and resources.
Right. So it's like, I think what you're saying there is we need both a ton of energy physically and mentally, but we also need a lot of money in order to take care of the the children behind us, possibly the elders ahead of us, and ourselves
Yeah,
at this really disrupted, kind of fragile time in our lives.
the future you.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. I don't think I appreciated the cost of midlife until our first conversation about it. When you started making me see, like, oh, this is like that inflection point when it's like, for me anyway, I'm 51. I have two kids who are about to go to college. My mom is getting older. My husband has some medical issues, right? Like that my own career, maybe because I left it in part unconsciously because of my own perimenopause symptoms, I'm not earning as much as I did in my prior career.
It's layered.
Yeah. So like
Yeah.
the fact that you're the first person to be double board certified in these two areas, I'm like, this is like ground zero. I expect a whole like army of Dr. Derezils to rise up behind you and help carry this load. But what are you able to see now that you couldn't see just looking at the physical health of women in midlife?
What I'm able to see now is how there are certain parts in our day to day that's affected by menopause that leads to the financial consequences.
Mm-hmm.
And it's usually two big areas, it's the medical and the career choices that we make, which indirectly and directly makes a impact on the compounding costs or the financial future, our financial future. And so I see how menopause can increase healthcare costs in so many different ways.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that's usually the part that we see. And then the career choices that we make based on how menopause is making us feel and show up at work, those affect the income as well. And so with the career cost, that's more so insidious because the choices that are being made are in that moment the right choices. They're the responsible choices and they feel protective. But then the part that's missing is, hey, how is this going to affect me in the long run financially?
Right. So when you talk about the career choices, I think you mean like leaning out of leadership,
Yep.
turning down roles, bypassing opportunities, putting others ahead of us.
hmm cutting back on hours if you are an independent contractor or your owner, cutting back on clients, not going for the promotion or raises, not raising your hands at the meetings, just taking yourself out of the leadership pipeline if that is something that you were aspiring to do.
Yeah, that's so true. 'Cause I think we do that oftentimes with an internal story of I'm broken. I've lost my ambition. I've lost my relevance. I've lost my edge. And I think what you're saying is, no, you've probably lost your hormones and you could use some hormone replacement therapy and some coaching for your confidence and then a plan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, having a plan is protection.
I love
Having
that word.
Yeah,
So it's like
having
we can't
a plan is
control the hormone loss.
it's inevitable. Is something that we know for sure is going to happen, whether it's natural or surgically.
Mhm,
It's going to happen. So
mhm.
why not plan for it?
I think you were starting to walk us through the factors of the menopause tax. The first one I heard was healthcare and those rising costs there. What are like some of the big bucket healthcare costs that come up in menopause?
Yeah. So the menopause tax, I like to look at it, three separate costs: the care
Mhm.
costs, the career costs, and the compounding costs.
Okay.
The care costs, we'll start off with that one, is what we normally see as the pink tax. This is
Okay.
essentially the money that we spend to feel better, to feel sane again. And so that would look like going to the doctor's visits, all the co-pays that we pay, buying medication, going on Amazon, buying supplements, and just trying to kind of like fix ourselves, additional therapies, whether it is acupuncture or Pilates, whatever it may be, to just get our body moving. And so those are different ways you pay into the healthcare system, to just make sure that you're feeling your best.
It really is when you start to break it down like that. There's so much there. Like when I think about a psychiatric care folded in there, and then like the even like coloring our hair or cutting our hair, right? Like there's just so much that folds into that. So that's the pink tax, the care cost. And then the second is the career cost. And that we said was like leaning out, less ambition, bypassing roles. And how big an effect is that on people?
Career costs, that can lead to easily over hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Wow. Wow. Yeah. I'm like
Easily. I
trying to
mean,
do the math in my own head for myself right now as we
yeah.
talk.
I
And it's
mean, those are the
staggering.
raises, those are the promotions, those are the extra clients that you could have gotten. Those are the time you have to take off of work because you have to go to said doctor visits or take your aging parent to their doctor visits. So there is, again, it's harder to see, but there is loss of income because of these small intentional, small.
Yeah. So it's almost as if like the first key takeaway I think here is it pays to see your doctor and get treatment for the physical symptoms so that you're not spending quite so much in the career bucket. Is that fair to say?
Absolutely. And early. Because, I mean, how long have we been living in our bodies? Decades. We know our bodies and we know them well, and no one else will know our body more than ourselves. So the minute you feel something is just off, do it.
Hmm. Mhm. And what would that first step look like?
Absolutely. So it would be calling and making an appointment and say, hey, these are, I want to say that differently. So it would be, take 1 or 2 weeks, if it's not urgent, to write down what you're experiencing. Some of the
Mm,
symptoms, whether it's spotty periods, if it's exhaustion that just is not going to let up, if it's brain fog that is leading you to make mistakes, whether at work and at school, whatever it is, just jot it down. So you have some information, so you have some data that you can call your provider and make an appointment. Say, hey, I want to talk about what I've been experiencing, and having a conversation and go from there.
I wanna get really specific too about who to call because I
Mhm.
feel like so often I'm Googling, like, "Who do you call if this hurts?" Right? Like, I don't even know. I'm a grown ass woman. You would think I would know all these things by now, but I don't. So I assume I'd call the GP or the gynecologist or both.
Right. So if you have insurance, definitely use it. You pay for it, use it. I would start off with my family provider first.
Okay.
And if you're suspecting that you're going through the transition, sadly enough, not everyone is trained about
Mm,
the
mhm,
transition. And
mhm.
so if you feel that that's something that you need, then just ask for a referral. And also go to the Menopause Society website. They have a list of approved practitioners on that site that you can go to.
So, if I start to notice symptoms of career impact, what should my first step be? Is it again like track your physical symptoms or is it something else?
Yeah, so if you're having some of the career costs, if you're impacted that way, you should do two things. One, if you are physically unwell, then seeing a provider is going to be always step one, right? So you can be your best self at your job to do your best work. And then once that is more stabilized, then having a conversation with your boss or with yourself, whatever that means, if you are your own boss,
Thank you.
but putting some things in place to help support you to be able to do your job a bit better.
Mhm.
So that
Mhm.
may mean having a desk fan. It may mean
Mm.
working during certain hours.
Mhm.
This is if you work on your own, working certain hours where you're going to be the most productive. If you work for a company, then maybe talking to HR and determining what their policies are, if they even have
Mm.
one.
Mhm. Mhm.
And so just asking questions and see what you need to support yourself, because that's going to look different for every woman. The symptoms are so varied across us that don't be afraid to ask for what you need.
I love that. I am reading a book right now called When Women Get Sick by Rebecca Bloom, who's also going to appear in this series. And she talks about the fact that she's been working with women who are battling chronic or extreme illnesses for the last 20 years as a patient advocate. And she talks about how, as women, we are so trained to not ask those questions, to
Hmm.
not use our benefits because we feel like, oh, it's cheating. Somebody else could use it more. But that the truth is your insurance, your long-term disability, your disability care, it's your money.
Hmm.
You've been paying for it. This is not cheating. It's yours. It's just using the investments you've had. And so I love hearing that from you too. One of the major mindset hurdles that we face as women, and one of the ways we shortchange ourselves, and that tendency to, oh, just battle through, suffer, suck it up, handle it, despite whatever cost it is to us physically, emotionally, financially.
Really shouldn't have to struggle. There's so much resources out there. It's just a matter of, hey, how do I use it? Right.
Mhm.
And ask them the questions to figure out how to use it. Sometimes the symptoms of menopause could really affect a woman's competence and confidence. Might be getting a coach to just be your personal cheerleader and to help you figure out maybe different ways for you to do the same work that you used to do and to be more
Yeah.
productive.
Yeah. I love that because what I think you're guiding us toward is a true reset.
Yeah, because we definitely need different skills and different strategy in
Yeah.
this phase of life. And there's nothing wrong with that. Yeah, it's
It's
different.
so comforting though to hear somebody say that, right? Like, especially an expert, somebody like you who's seen so many patients and advised so many people on their finances and their health now to say like, no, this is just part of it. You just need to rebuild some of these systems. You don't have to struggle forever. But it's probably not gonna work if you're trying to use the same old strategies with a totally different body.
Your brain, your body, and your bank account just needs a different approach, a fresh new perspective.
The 3 Bs.
Yeah.
I love it. So, okay, we haven't talked about the compounding cost. Tell us about that. What does that actually look like? What goes into the compounding cost?
The compounding cause is a silent part of this whole menopause tax.
Huh.
And it is the small yeses and nos that we say to certain things now that add to 6 or even 7 figure losses later.
What are some of the things that a financial advisor is gonna be able to help with there?
Traditionally, they're not trained to consider this phase of life, which I think is
Mm.
problem number one. It's just the training.
Mhm, mhm.
But as we can self advocate for ourselves and bring that to the table. like, hey, I'm not feeling well. I know this is not your expertise, but it's affecting my work decisions. And ultimately, I'm not bringing home as much as I used to, which could really affect my retirement. And I'm really looking to retire on time. I'm sure we all are. And so just trying to create a plan or make a space where we can build in a fund to support us as we go through this phase. What if something were to happen to us during menopause and ultimately couldn't go back to the job that we were working,
Hmm.
right? And so just having that conversation to see what the options are to build reserve for us.
So, ideally, imaginary world, when is the very, very best time to start thinking about this?
In our 20s, when I think about
Crazy.
younger Dr. D,
Mm.
I'm like, wow, I wish I knew this information in my 20s. First thing I tell my patients, like, if you can create a fund, and you can do that with your HSA, there's so many different ways you can do it, but just building some sort of space or reserve for you to be able to support yourself as you go through this transition without having to tap into your financial future, into your retirement funds and the things that you've set for yourself. And so in the 20s, I think would be because you don't have to put much, $25, 50 um, and that, of course, will compound over time and you use it as you need.
Wow, I love this. So, this idea, I think a lot about working now to become the 90-year-old I want to be.
Mm.
'Cause I watch how, like, agile and energized my grandma was, and I look back and I'm like, "Oh, she was investing in that energized, healthy 95-year-old when she was 40 and 50 and 60 and 70 and 80." So I'm, like, investing now, and so I love this idea of telling my kids who are in their teenagers now, like, when they get jobs soon, I hope, telling them, like, this is part of the reason you're saving is so that when you're my age, you are prepared. And I think your idea of using HSA for that is super interesting.
Hmm. Absolutely. Yeah. So if you're eligible to get one, that would be the best tool to use. Best tool to use if you're able, depending on how your health insurance is structured, that would be the best.
And so you would just bulk that up as much as possible.
As much as they allow you to. Yeah,
Cool.
and then that actually is an investment of itself, is an investment vehicle, and that compounds over time. You'll be able to really build your reserve over time.
Mm,
You'll be
I
glad
love
that you
that.
saved it.
Yeah.
Future years gonna be like, oh, I love you. Thanks for thinking of me.
Well, I'll be honest, I always thought HSA was, like, really great because it was like, "Oh, I can get medical care pre-tax." That's awesome, but I didn't realize I'm a dunce, I guess. I didn't realize that it was gaining interest in that account when I wasn't spending it. So it's like double win.
Yeah, for sure.
There's so much we don't know about this stuff. That's why conversations like this are so fascinating. I just decided talking to you. I'm like, we're going to do May is for money, and all the episodes are going to be about money, money, money.
And then,
May is for menopause and money. So, let's talk a little bit more about the. So, you have said that the menopause tax is about 20 to 25% of our income. How did you arrive at that number, Dr.
yeah,
Derezil?
so those numbers are research based. When you look at the menopause tax, the cumulative amount of the menopause tax is about 20 to 25% of your income. And it looks different depending on where you work. So if you are a salaried employee, meaning that you get a W 2, it's about 20%. That takes into account an earnings gap. So there's research that indicates that there's a 10% decline in earnings approximately 4 years after a menopause diagnosis, and a productivity leak, meaning those who are symptomatic in the workplace can lose an average of 10 work days per year. So you add that number, that's about 20% for the salaried employee. And so if you are a 1099 independent contractor, an owner, consultant, it's about 25% because you have to take into account one, you pay your self employment, meaning you pay both sides or both halves of the Social Security and the Medicare. And then there's
Mhm.
also a benefits gap. You got to pay for your own health insurance. So K matching, anything with liability. And so you put those into perspective and then you get the 25%.
Wow. Do you find that salaried workers or hourly workers are more impacted by this?
More contract workers. Yeah,
Mm,
the
mhm,
1099, meaning those who work for themselves, because you have to take into account there is, if for some reason you decide to take a day off, you're losing income for that day, right? It's not
mm.
like you have a reserve, a bank that would say, hey, I can take time off and still get paid for taking that time. Either you show up or you don't.
What is interesting there too is you can see that right away. My paycheck last week was $500 and this week it's 400. So when you start working with people on their menopause tax and to bring that down, what are some of the things you do to help them get get it under control and make a plan?
The first thing I have them do is a risk assessment, completely free
Okay.
on my website, 2 minutes, a couple of questions where you calculate your score. And that total will show you how much menopause is affecting your money. Then we take that score and I integrate it into a audit.
Mm,
So we take into account all three of the factors of the menopause tax and see where we need to address first. We prioritize the first protection and help you develop a plan from there.
do people have to wait years to see the effects, or is this something that, like, you can really get into and start to see improvements quickly from?
The most visible cost improvement that you'll see, of course, is the health costs.
Uh-huh.
You'll
Uh-huh.
see that first. That's so easy to say. You're looking at receipts, and if you're well, you're not having to dig into all these areas so much. And then you can start to go into prevention, okay, with the
Mm,
health costs. The retirement, that takes a little bit more time because you
mhm.
need to make sure that you're okay on the front end. And once we have that bit stabilized, that will flow into the compounding. And
I
of
love that.
course, that's just the way compounding works. It takes time. Time is your friend.
Yeah. Yeah. So short-term and long-term effects, but you're planning for both.
Yeah, at the same time.
You write this amazing Substack, and every week you're featuring so many incredibly useful tips and strategies for women. What are some of the mistakes that you see women making most often when it comes to menopause and money?
The first one that I notice is simple. We're waiting to feel better. We don't want to take the time out of our day to get the help that we need, to fill up our cup, to figure out what's going on with us. So the waiting
Mhm.
can create a lot of damage that I don't think we are aware of.
Mhm.
So that's definitely number one. And then two would be not including a financial advisor into the plan. I just don't, again, because the worlds
Mhm.
are so siloed, the connection is not being made. Having a financial advisor on your team is integral to make sure that you're successful during this phase and connecting the two. Like, hey, I need to make a plan for this phase in my life
Mhm.
because it's
Which
impacting how I function.
So first thing, whether you're 20 or 70, start now. Don't wait. Second, get support. This really isn't something that should be done on our own. We need other people to help us reflect, and we need specialists who understand this specifically, people like you who have both the mindset and the money and the physical symptoms and understand the intersection of those. So, we haven't talked much about companies. Carissa Pfeffer, who was on
Mhm.
the show a while back, is talking a lot about this from your perspective as somebody who is an expert in menopause and money. What should companies be doing instead of ignoring this issue?
Not ignoring this issue.
There we go. Step one, just like
First
the
and
rest of us, not
foremost,
ignoring.
if you're working for a company, we as the employees, women in the company, should be bringing this to the forefront, to the HR, to the bosses in the company. Like, this is what's happening. This is what I need. The more of us stepping up, it's going to start to get the conversation going. And then working possibly with HR to get education, whether it's a webinar or a workshop, but getting some sort of information from the top down. So we're all
Mhm.
in the know and see how we can set up support in the workspace.
That's so good. I think I take from that, we have to end the silence on this. We've known that there's an issue, but we haven't raised it to people to make a difference and create that change until recently. And that if you were to wave a wand, what would you change in terms of how we approach menopause in the workplace?
I would love if every workplace had some sort of medical team that the employees can reach out to, having partnerships with medical teams to provide access to those who need it. I have a friend who's a principal at a local school. She was telling me how they built a health center that she can go to if she's not feeling well. They offer all sorts of therapies, including menopause therapy. And you get medications there too. And it's just the next building over, but having a medical site on campus that they can access and then go back to work depending on how they're feeling is a game changer. So
Yeah.
I think we can build some sort of similar construct
Yeah.
for the workplace.
That's cool. Before we go, I want to talk a little about you
Mhm.
personally. I know this is a relatively new foray for you. You're launching this offering as we speak. Now, meanwhile, you're navigating your own perimenopausal and menopausal transition. So, what has surprised you most about your experience, even with all of this knowledge?
Seeking medical treatment is not usually not one visit.
Mhm.
We got to consider the follow ups. And I've had to take time off of work to make sure that I make my follow ups
Mm,
because we have to talk about there are side effects to some of
mm.
these medications. If you're experiencing them, you want to make sure that you're taking care of them. And so, just as I'm going through it myself, there's days I had to take off, and I'm, losing income just not by showing up for work. And so, that's what I'm learning. I'm learning even as you go getting treatment that you have to factor in time off of work to go to these visits until your treatment is stabilized.
Yeah, so again, it's so interesting to me how it really comes up for make it but comes back again and again from every side that we have to make that investment in ourselves
Mhm.
and that we deserve to make things better. And so I'm curious what you would say to a woman who's maybe a past version of yourself who believes early in this transition that somehow she's broken or she's failing. What do you want her to hear?
I want to say to her, given what I know now, that you're going to go through this transition just like you did when you were 11. Remember that time no one told you what was about to happen and you
Mhm.
bled through your underwear at school? It's going to happen again. It's going to feel differently, but this time you know what to expect. And so I want you to take the time out for you and be gentle with yourself, ask for help and start creating a reserve for
Mm.
you because it can get really expensive.
I'm sure most of us were not doing this when we were 20. And so there's probably a whole lot of us who are like, I'm too far behind. It's over. I can't do it. What would you say to the person who is starting this now at 40, 50, 60?
It's never too late. Never, never, never too late. Saving something is better than nothing. Get the help that you need medically or in the workplace. If you don't have a financial advisor now, make sure that you do, so you can start calculating your numbers. Retirement is not that far away from midlife, and you want to make sure that you're on track so you can retire on time.
I even just think reminding ourselves that there is life between 30 and 70,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Originally,
Like, because
too.
it's so glossed over.
Yeah.
We go from like young adult to geriatric in most of the media. And I'm like, actually, no, the majority of our life is between those two.
Yeah. And it's such a
And yet
rich
our
life.
solutions aren't.
Yeah. There's such a rich life too, not monetary, but just like in the quality of how we live. And we want to make sure that we're living it well.
Yeah. Here's to that, my friend.
Yeah.
So there are two questions we ask every guest on the Uplifters podcast. The first is, who do you want to nominate for the Uplifters?
And so I want to nominate my friend Carolyn. We completed actually our certification in menopause through the Menopause Society together. She is the owner and founder of Midlife Bloom, and she talks about women's health, specifically menopause, using evidence based strategies.
I know Carolyn, and I think she's amazing. And we totally need to get her on here. Stat. So, as uplifters, we love to uplift other uplifters. I want to talk about all the places we can find you and what we can find there. You talked
Mhm.
about on your website. What is that website?
Menoandmoney.com.
Menoandmoney.com. We'll put that in the show notes. And one of the things you said we'll find there is a questionnaire that we can use to find out what our first line of defense is.
It is a risk check, couple of questions, 2 minutes, completely free to calculate your score to see how much menopause is actually affecting your money.
Awesome. And then you have this amazing Substack, which is packed with so much information, and your LinkedIn and your Instagram, all of which are packed with information. I'd say go straight to that Substack though, because that's where you're going to find the most robust information. How often are you posting there, Kim?
About once or twice a week.
Nice. Nice. And I know everyone I read, I'm like, it's just so full of ahas, and they all feel super relevant for me and where I am right now. So I never miss an episode or an issue. And I'm just really grateful that you're putting all of these free resources out into the world. Because, like I said, nobody else is doing this. And then if we need some support, how do we work with you?
Absolutely. So after you've done the risk assessment, my information is down there to just click the link and book a audit.
Cool. Cool. And what happens during the audit?
The audit is about 60 minutes. We get all your information together and have a list that you'll put together, and we integrate it and figure out where we need to protect you first.
I love it. That's awesome. And so that feels like a bit of a sigh of relief to not have to do this again alone, but to get to do it with somebody who really knows what they're doing and can help us change this trajectory. Because frankly, losing 25% is not acceptable.
Yeah, not fun at all.
This was amazing. For those of you listening, I told you this was going to be a game changer, right? Dr. Kimberly Derezil just gave us a roadmap to losing tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars and to doing something that most of us didn't even know what was happening. So here's what I want you to do right now. Go and get that form on Kim's website, calculate your menopause tax using her formula. Go to her website, take that 5-question assessment to find out where to start, and then share this episode with every woman you know who's in her 40s or 50s. And if you're an HR leader or company executive listening to this, you just heard the business case for menopause support. Your most experienced female talent is going to walk out the door or quietly quit, like I did in both cases, and it's going to cost you millions. But also, you're going to lose all of that institutional knowledge that's been gained. So now you know what to do about it. Do it. Call Dr. Derezil, reach out to Carissa Pfeffer, get support, because none of us can afford to ignore this. Dr. Derezil, thank you for this incredible work. Thank you for being brave enough to share your own $121,000 lesson with us so we don't have to learn as hard a way. This is exactly the kind of big, brave thing we need to see more and more women doing. To every woman listening, if this helped you, please leave a review wherever you listened. Share it with someone who needs to hear it. And until next week, let's keep uplifting each other.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for watching the Uplifters podcast. If this inspired you, hit subscribe and tap the bell to stay uplifted. Give this video a thumbs up and share it with someone who needs a little lift today. Big love.
Painted water sunshine with rosemary and thyme. Dwell in the perplexing, though you find it vexing. Toss a star and hover, be your own best lover. Relish in a new prime, plant a tree in springtime. Dance with idle hindsight, bring the sun to twilight.